Tonight, we arrive at the first installment of One's Own Justice. Adventure, action, and intrigue are soon to come, but our tale begins in the small town of Turris. At the base of a mountain, Turris has a main road parallel to the mountain, along with three evenly spaced offshooting roads. The roads head into defunct mines. If you saw the town from the sky, it would look like it was a giant E. Though the town is filled with businesses and homes and a good amount of crime, we'll be focusing on the lower corner of the center street. An old building with mostly gray siding with brown patches, an aesthetic that matches the rest of the town. It was a two-store rectangular general store. The inside was divided into general goods in the front counter, with a staircase heading to the second floor to the left of the counter. The goods were separated among segmented shelves lining the wall and two bookshelves in the center holding more goods. The counter, well, it was a wooden counter with drawers and compartments beneath it. Behind the counter is Simon Sutton, an athletic individual who has short curly hair and is wearing a plain white button-down shirt and jeans. He stares out the window at the building across the street. It was a historic building. It had a wooden sign hanging by a thin chain off the side of its veranda. In faded red paint, that sign had once said sheriff. As Simon stares at the building, his imagination pulls him to adventures and enactments of justice as he thinks himself a sheriff.
Hey, I'm gonna need some, Simon. Hey, Simon! You listening? Simon!
Snapping back, Simon notices that the man who entered the store 10 minutes ago had finally stopped perusing the shelves lining the walls of the shop and had finally approached the counter next to Simon.
Sorry. What do you need, Harvey?
Harvey, the rotund individual, points behind Simon and places a coil of rope on the counter.
Whatever. I need 3 of those large bottles of lantern oil, and I'm gonna buy this.
Sounds good. That'll be 30 gold.
Simon grabs the enormous bottles of lantern oil from the shelf behind him and puts them into a crate. Harvey shuffles through his pockets for a few seconds and pulls out a small coin purse. And he pays for the goods. Simon turns back to the window as Harvey grabs a crate and walks out the door. In front of Simon is a section of counter covered in cloth, with a dismantled tent sprawled out. It had a broken pole, the canvas was torn, and the anchors were bent. It went through a wild camping trip in the old mine. But since it was borrowed, Simon needs to fix it. Taking a deep breath, Simon picks up the straightest tent anchor and spins it in the palm of his hand as if it was a dagger. Occasionally, the cold point bumps into his forearm as he shifts it from forward grip to reverse grip, forward grip to reverse grip, forward grip to reverse grip. He continues the motion as if it were, nothing at all, while looking over the pile of scrap that was once a tent. The rest of the day flies by, with a few more customers coming into the shop, buying various goods, and leaving. Throughout that time, Simon finds small ways to reinforce and repair the tent until the sun sets. As the dull orange glow shines over the horizon, Simon's boss, Mr. Blinket, finally enters the shop proper from the second floor, covered in dust.
Thanks for covering the counter all day. That attic was a mess.
Mr. Blinket was a old, slightly fat individual with no hair and currently brandishing both an apron on his chest and what seems to be many splinters in his hands.
Well, it gave me some time with the tools to continue fixing the tent.
I guess so. Don't worry about rushing. Just get it fixed at some point in the future. Have a good night, kid. I'll close up.
Simon carefully packs up the half-repaired tent, puts it under the counter, and dashes out the front door. Turning left on the corner of the main road, Simon starts meandering towards his house, staring off the horizon. The purple sky is mesmerizing as a cloud of dust forms off in the distance. Though it looks too fast to be a forming dust storm, he figures no matter what it is, probably be best to get home and lock up. Simon starts to run towards the southern road, but as he gets 3 buildings away from the corner, he stops. A figure gets pushed out of the alleyway ahead of him, who then quickly runs back in, raising his fist.
Insulting us, then putting up a fight. Looks like you're itching to lose a leg, old timer.
Simon charges forward, and as he turns the corner, he notices three figures. An older gentleman with dark gray hair wearing a white button-up shirt and jeans. To his left and right are two men in ragged brown overalls with knives in sheaths on their hip. The one on the right has short red hair and is holding a pipe. On the left is a figure wearing a sheet as a hood with his hands raised in a fighting stance. He pulls back his left hand, about to throw a punch. Stop! The two men freeze and look at Simon. The man on the left motions towards Simon with a pipe and turns halfway around.
Get out of here, kid. This joke of a healer's none of your business.
The redhead nonchalantly points to the dagger on his belt.
Having magic or not isn't a good reason to beat a man. I'd recommend you leave him alone.
The redhead nods towards Simon, then trips the old man. He starts to beat him. The hooded figure takes a few steps towards Simon.
Well, I recommend you leave. Now.
With his right hand, he pulls out a dagger with an iridescent green gemstone embedded in the crossguard.
You've got no reason to be fighting us. Not to mention the old man's a bit rust.
An orange spark snaps in the palm of the hooded figure's left hand as the gemstone starts to glow a swirling orange and red. Simon recognizes that the man is about to cast a spell. Without a thought, he charges forward and upcuts the hooded figure across the face with an exploding crack. Leaving no time to recover, he strikes the man again in the gut, knocking the wind out of him. The redhead looks back and notices a scuffle, so he spins in place and rushes over. Just before Simon can get another punch in, he's kicked in the ribs and is knocked to the ground. The two men tower over Simon as they begin kicking and beating him. Curling into a ball, Simon waits for an opening that just isn't there. Suddenly, the hooded figure is pulled away. As the redhead turns to figure out what happened, Simon gets to his feet. The old man had gotten up and started a brawl with the hooded figure. Redhead drops the dagger he was holding and reaches for his dagger. The hooded figure retreats away from the strangely energized gentleman and raises his dagger above his head.
Flamen Ferrum!
The dagger's blade extends in a red flame until it doubles its original size, and the hooded figure swiftly slashes at the older gentleman with a flurry of blind rage. The old man dodges the swings as best he can. Occasionally, he is able to get in a punch. Simon starts rushing towards the redhead as the redhead pulls out a dagger with a similar gemstone, and he raises his left hand towards the old man.
Stand circle.
A crackling ball of lightning forms in the redhead's hand. Simon barely manages to jab him in the left side before it flew from his palm. The pain caused Red to constrict, lining up the ball of lightning to crash into Simon's right shoulder. Pissed off, the redhead starts swinging wildly at Simon. The flurry of slashes are at such a speed that even with careful dodging, Simon collects multiple cuts throughout his forearms. Within a moment, he is backed against a wall. Attempting to break away, he tries to punch the lights out of the man, putting everything behind a right hook to the jaw. But he only nicks the jaw and fully extends his arm from the momentum. The man grabs Simon's elbow, and suddenly he feels a piercing heat at his midsection. Trying to wrestle away, he stares at the man's face. A devilish grin unnaturally extends the man's face as Simon squirms and hits the man who is about to drive a knife into his gut.
Keep moving. You can't let them pin you.
Simon doesn't look away as the older gentleman speaks. The hooded figure's knife flies into the shoulder of the redhead and knocks him away from Simon. Simon recovers and moves away from the wall to continue fighting the now bleeding man. But the hooded figure's thrown on top of the redhead, knocking them both to the ground. The older gentleman walks past Simon and grabs the knife out of the red-haired man's hand. He takes a moment to breathe raggedly. The white-haired man looms over the two gangsters and spins the knife in his hand to have it tip down.
Seeing as there's no sheriff to provide public safety, you best get moving. I'd hate to report your disappearances to the next traders in town.
The two run off, fumbling over each other as they run out of the alley. As soon as they were out of sight, the older gentleman leans on the wall opposite of Simon.
Oh. Hey, I appreciate you stepping in, though I'd have advised against it. My place is at the end of the road. I can patch you up there if you want.
I'll be fine. I was just doing what seemed right. No reason to bother a stranger any further.
Name's Alan Kurt. There, we're not strangers. Now, let me patch up those cuts and that burn.
Alan takes a left out of the alley, and after taking a moment to think about it, Simon dashes after him. The two silently walk to the end of the road and take a left to the southernmost end of the town. Walking right past Simon's house, Alan seems focused on the shack at the end of the road, while Simon's eyes can't help but wander to the mountain behind said shack, then to the small houses that symmetrically surround the road they're walking on. The setting sun signals both the self-imposed curfew of the town and the magic-powered lamps to kick in and light the roads. A while later, they reach the shack. It was a quaint little building that, with closer inspection, it used to be an old storage shed for the mine. And it looks like the old trail is still partially here, leading to the entrance, which is 150 feet behind the shack. There are multiple spots in its roof and front-facing wall where there's brand new tan wood surrounded by the gray and dried out original. So, same as the rest of the town. Alan walks inside and starts a fire with the quiet smell, and Simon finally gets his first good look at the man in the bright lights. Alan Kurt is a man with all manner of scars up and down his arms, black hair that is now severely graying to look mostly white. Despite his face looking over 60, Alan is built like a soldier in his prime. The shack he lives in is mostly barren, a bed in the corner, a table and 2 chairs in the corner to the left of the door. There's a small stove near a fireplace on the left wall. But the most odd of all is a ramshackle assortment of various items sprawled out in 2 bookshelves that cover the entirety of the back wall. It's filled with books and curios and I think a few jars. Alan goes to the shelves and surgically finds an unmarked leather bag, then grabs one of the chairs from the table, gesturing Simon to sit.
I have some of this morning stew heating up, but until then, I can fix that burn.
Simon walks over and sits down. The dusty chair creaks slightly and cracks. He unbuttons his sleeve, showing a large burn, which almost looks like a web of lightning. Alan goes through the bag and finds a palm-sized piece of a sky blue crystal. He presses it into the center of the burn. And now that the adrenaline is gone, it feels like burning pins and needles are covering his shoulder. For a minute, Alan recites a small prayer inaudibly. The crystal glows a dull blue, then a bolt of red flashes within. And then the glow fades. It felt similar to vertigo. The red flash just caused the burn to disappear, like it was never there.
Wait. What kind of magic was that?
Hold still. I'll tell you after.
Alan goes over the cuts, one by one, patching up the ones on his arms, and using another spell on Simon's midsection to stop the bleeding. He looks tired as he stands back up, and Alan slowly walks over to the fireplace to check on the pot over the fire.
So, what was that?
Just a simple bit of healing I picked up while serving.
In the military?
Alan walks over to the bookshelf and grabs a denim bag that is carefully placed on the corner. Heading back over to the table, he slowly sits down and pulls out an old leather book that is stained in all manner of substances.
Well, for a bit, yeah. I was a combat medic. Though that's not exactly where I learned to fight. Or used advanced magic, for that matter. Do you know any spells?
My knowledge about the whole magic thing is very limited. I know you say some special phrase along with some kind of physical motion, then something happens.
Well, that's almost correct. That's more to the effect of what kind of magic you're casting. All in all, magic comes down to a gemstone, practice, and sleep.
Wait. Huh. What kinds of magic are there?
Alan stands up and walks over to the wall behind him. He grabs 2 bowls and another leather bag.
You want a history lesson?
As long as it doesn't take all night, sure.
Filling the bowls with stew, he walks back to the table. Simon starts to silently eat as Alan grabs out items from his bag. A crystal from earlier, a pencil, and a piece of paper.
Well, magic can be broken down into 4 classes.
On the first piece of paper, Alan draws 4 circles. One with a drop of water, the second with a campfire in the middle, the third with like a tornado or a dust bowl, and the last one had a mountain. The mountain.
Elemental spells are versatile and quick to cast, as the name suggests. These harness the elements to fulfill whatever you need. Hypothetically.
So you can conjure a fireball from your hands?
Technically, though you'll need a bit more than words for an explosion.
Alan puts the paper aside and holds up the crystal.
Life magic is exactly like what you saw me do. Healing. Though it can be twisted to take life, it's all about messing with the healing process.
So, how does it kill people?
You don't want to know.
Okay, sure. Does it cause lesions or what?
Trust me, knowing only makes it worse. Either way, enchantment spells are pretty amazing, actually. Given a little material, you can use these spells to amplify yourself or your equipment. That's only the tip of the iceberg. Though anything crazy costs you quite a bit of material.
Alan leans back and rubs the stubble on his chin.
Last is psych magic. It messes with your mind. Past that, I don't know much about it.
Did you ever fight someone who uses it?
No, but an old friend of mine said to just rush them down. It takes a while to cast any psych spell.
He takes a bite of the fatty stew and holds the spoon in 2 fingers, pointing it at Simon.
If you want to go crazy and cast something huge, you'll need components like chemicals, elements, or something related to the spell you're trying to cast.
Could you give an example?
So, that small ball of lightning was cast with nothing. If he was holding a gold coin, it could have been a bolt of lightning instead.
Oh, that seems intense.
You should see how far a bit of blood can get you.
Okay. So what's with the gemstones?
Alan places the dagger that he grabbed off the thugs and a quartz crystal onto the table.
In order to cast spells in general, you need what's called a focus. It's used to channel your intent and a bit of your energy into a spell.
Then the chant and movements are more or less meant to specify what you're trying to cast.
Alan puts away the crystal and slides the knife over to Simon.
Again, you're nearly there. To keep it short, you have more control over the spell than you think. Though the more intense the spell, the more of a toll it'll take.
Simon picks up the knife and looks at the crystal.
Okay, you gotta clarify this. How much control and what kind of toll? Are my fingers gonna start decaying or what?
He starts to spin the blade in his hand. Forward grip, reverse grip, forward grip.
In my experience, it's mostly like a metabolic toll. Casting just a little too much could make you lethargic. Though I can't say that's out of the realm of possibility.
Reverse grip, forward grip, reverse grip.
Where did you learn all this?
Not in the military.
Cool. So if you didn't learn this in the military, then
Simon accidentally slices open his arm with the tip of the knife. He drops it as Alan opens up his bag and pulls out a crystal. A few notes fall out as the bag tips over when he places it on the ground. After about another minute, Simon's arm is healed, and Alan now has deep bags beneath his eyes.
Well, honestly, it's all about who you meet. I was lucky enough to meet some great casters who taught me enough to get by.
Would you consider yourself a great caster?
Nah, I'm passable.
Then do you think there are any notable casters out there in the desert?
Alan notices the letters that fell out of his bag. He picks them up and stares at them. He carefully puts them back into his bag, then sits back down across from Simon.
I never heard of one in the military. I do have one, but I thought you'd know him since Turris is near where he's active.
Simon twirls the knife around again, this time paying more attention to the angle of the blade as it comes towards his arm. After a few silent moments, he sits up straight.
I haven't heard of any great caster around. Outside of the two biggest gangs, that is. Wait. Are you talking about one of the gang leaders?
Well, before they decided to lead gangs, but I'm referring to their nemesis. For the cashier of the general store, I'm surprised you don't know who I'm referring to.
I'm not widely attuned to the business of traders. I kinda prefer hearing about the sheriffs of other towns.
Alan smiles, then walks over to the bookshelf again. After a few moments, he grabs a picture out of a book that was at the bottom of a stack. Then he hands the photo to Simon.
I think you'll be fond of this caster. He's a bit reckless, but he's a great caster and a good sheriff.
The photo is of a younger Alan in a faded khaki military uniform, next to an orange scaled 3-foot-tall walking lizard wearing a white and orange poncho and a 10-gallon hat. Simon looks up in a mix of confusion and disbelief.
A kobold. You're kidding me, right?
I know it's a bit absurd. Honest to God, he's amazing when it comes to magic.
Uh-huh. How'd you find him?
Smidge of luck and being the one medic crazy enough to join the advanced recon unit. Which reminds me,
He walks over to the wall and grabs a small wooden box along with a flattened scroll that was beneath it. After getting back to the table, the scroll is unrolled to show a ragged yellow map with 20 circles highlighting what seems to be cities, along with the edges of the map where sections are sprawled in a language that Simon has never seen before, each with a symbol that matches an area on the map. Studying the cities, about 5 of the circles at the near bottom left portion of the map match up with every map that Simon has ever seen.
Where did you get the map? Holy.
I got this map from a friend in recon after he retired. His unit was sent to check out the aftermath of Irosis' battles with the local gangs.
So what's in the box? You grabbed it with the map. Is it more magic paraphernalia?
It's a present. Me, the recon squad, and a few others got him this. Though we haven't had a chance to give it to him yet.
Why is that?
We had a few copies made, and the first one who makes contact with him is supposed to, present it.
Oh. So what is it?
Something he deserves, even if some people think a noose would fit him better.
Simon is intensely studying the map, enthralled with a new look at the world beyond Turris.
So, where do you get your information on sheriffs?
I give out a few discounts to the right people, and they'll shop as they tell stories.
Ah, I heard from your boss that he was noticing some weird transactions. So, do you think you could be the next sheriff?
Well, I think this town has had some issues with bandits and thugs ever since Sheriff Henderson died. Not to mention, casters are starting to join the local gang. Someone needs to step up before something happens.
Alan leans back in his chair and smirks.
Well, I think this town has had some issues with bandits and thugs ever since Sheriff Henderson died. Not to mention, casters are starting to join the local gang. Someone needs to step up before something happens.
He'd like you. You sound just like him when he gets worked up. Next time I hear he's working close by, maybe I can send him a message and get him to head into town.
Wait, so he's still working? Like fighting more thugs, bandits, and monsters?
Yep.
So what's he been doing recently?
Look, it's getting late, kid. You best head back home. Feel free to come back another time, and I'll tell you more.
How about tomorrow?
Sure. See you tomorrow, then.
The next 12 hours speed by as Simon ran home to a single-room shack at the other end of the road. Within seconds of his head hitting his cot, he was out. Waking up the next morning, he rushed to work at high speeds, while most of the day rushed by with repairs, sales, and daydreams. Simon had caught glimpses on something that had happened last night. A man had wandered into town, half dead. Throughout the day, he hears theory after theory from people who enter the shop. Anticipation had been built to a fever pitch far before the end of his shift. As soon as he's dismissed by Mr. Plinkett, he bolts towards Alan's house. Out of breath and making the trip in under 3 minutes, he reaches Alan's home. Currently, it is surrounded by worried townsfolk. Shuffling through the crowd, Simon manages to knock on the door. Whispers spread through the crowd, a cacophony of gossip as Simon opens the door, visibly annoyed.
Healing takes time. Can't you all hold on for just a few hours? Oh, Simon, if you promise not to touch anything, I'll let you in.
Simon nods his head, and Alan lets him inside to the dismay of the crowd.
I'm not allowed to talk to friends. Just give me time, and you can stick your noses in his business when he's better.
The crowd slowly disperses, and Alan closes the door as the orange light of the setting sun is replaced with the light of the fire in the small shack.
This town loves jumping to conclusions. Well, I still have some stew if you're hungry. Past that, feel free to sit down. I'll be more talkative after completing the healing ritual.
A lesson in healing sounds great.
Simon sits in the same chair he was in the night before as he notices Alan going to a cot where a man clad in gray and brown plainclothes currently lies. The canvas cot is in the center of the room where a soapstone circle is drawn around it with 8 blue crystals placed 1 foot from each other around the bed. Alan starts to silently meditate, and lines of yellowish gold magical strings manifest above the bed and between each of the crystals. He finishes the weave of magic with an arrow that points to the head of the man.
Solartes mortis, deparo, vita restaurata, plagis, retaro, manur, manus, dia mortis.
As Alan chants, the crystals glow and the weave lowers and envelops the man. The right weave dulls, then expands until the man is faintly glowing a brilliant gold. Alan walks over to the table and sits down, visibly drained of energy, just like the night before.
What did you do?
Ritual healing spells are more taxing when you jury-rig them. I lacked proper resources, so I had to improvise. I should be fine in roughly 2 days. He's healing within that mass of weave, so he'll be ready to stand in a few days.
Do you have any idea who he is? I heard theories, but you seem like the resident expert.
Local knowledge is good to have, but you're right to doubt. The truth is not always as it seems. What were you told?
Well, apparently this guy is either a remnant of a gang that was attacked by Irois, someone from the military, or a traitor, etc., etc. Anything on this guy that seems out of place?
Well, I haven't gone through any of his belongings, but his outfit does remind me of the old clothes for Doyle's gang. But it's hard to say if that's true. They were supposed to have been pushed out of the area.
So it is possible that this man might be a gang member.
Simon notices a burned and torn bag, along with a destroyed jacket that had been placed on the floor near the front door. He points to them.
Would you mind if I...
Why not?
Simon grabs the bag and starts to go through it as he walks back to the table. Inside is a small green journal, a dagger with a line of crystal inlay in the blade,
and 3 small bottles of a bright red liquid with an orange flame-like pulse within the actual liquid. Looking at the jacket, there seemed to be parts of a patch on the left shoulder. The patch seemed to have been burned and slashed. Pushing the parts together, the outline seemed to be of a D and then a B. Looking over the items, Simon grabs the journal and flips it to the last page with writing as Alan reaches out and studies one of the bottles. What little writing was in the book was about 10 pages total. It seems like for the past few weeks, an assault was planned for a town in the area, though the town was never called by any name. Only notions of it being a home of some kind. The first 3 pages were, well, they were very different. Unlike the others where they were written sporadically with weird sizing, the first 3 were written with a steady hand. It was meticulous notes on a large chart, last logged about a month ago. It was neat and tidy with a strange signature filled out in every box. The log details the movement of a local gang, Doyle's Boilers. Oh, the Boilers are a notorious gang for using a combination of fire and water to wipe out towns for occupation.
Well, he's clearly a thief if nothing else. I think he was a member of the Boilers. Though, by the dates, the rest should be here by now. Do you think Iroa's got them?
We'd hear something by now if he did. Him being in that gang, well, that does explain these.
Alan's hand shakes as he carefully places it back into the bag.
What are they?
These potions are dangerous. Some complicated alchemy BS that takes years to make. We need to get the word out before anything happens. If the Boilers started brewing these, they'd have more than enough to level the multiple towns.
Alan starts to physically shake as his eyes widen, and he runs his hands through his graying hair.
We need to get the word out before anything happens. If the Boilers started brewing these, they'd have more than enough to level multiple towns.
Well, you're too weak and the gang could be here any day now. I could head to the closest town and get their sheriff to contact the military.
Simon, no. It's beyond clear that you haven't left this town. I kinda like you. I'd rather not send you to your death. Find a trader, and they should be able to reach another town in time.
By the time a trader gets anywhere, we'd all be dead. We'd have a better chance if I just bought a horse and rode nonstop.
Alan taps his fingers rhythmically, then mumbles something. The room is filled with the quiet hum of the weave surrounding the bandit in Alan's bed. Alan slowly stands up and walks to the back shelf. He grabs the faded brown satchel, a small book, and a long dagger in a wooden scabbard. Walking back to the table, he opens a small book and unfolds a page once, twice, 3 times, revealing a large map of the surrounding desert from one of the middle pages. He points to the mountain range at the center of the map.
Here's us.
Alan traces his hand to the north about 14 inches, then drops a compass on a town labeled Fermund.
You're gonna be riding for days either way. You should head here.
Simon nods and grabs the satchel, nearly dropping it as he feels its weight for the first time. He puts it on and starts to go through its pockets. There is a canteen, 2 swirling pink potion bottles, a metal container, an emergency satchel of coins, and 5 scrolls.
The potions are for healing most wounds. I'd recommend only use in emergencies. You'll have enough rations for 5 days. Needless to say, you should refill it before you try heading back. The scrolls in the back pocket are used to create a bonfire for when you need to sleep at night. I would recommend camping in caves to avoid being caught in the open night.
Alan grabs the book and compass from the table and puts them into Simon's bag.
Take this too.
Alan hands Simon a long dagger, pulling the dagger slightly out of the scabbard, just like the dagger the bandit had. It had an emerald crystal inlaid in the center of the blade, made for spellcasting.
Thank you, Alan. I'll head out immediately.
Running out of Alan's home, Simon bolts to the stables in the center of town. He buys a horse from the attendant and sets off into the night from the north side of town. Simon is outside town for the first time in his life. Though anxiety brims at the edge of his consciousness, his focus cuts through. He repeats one phrase over and over. Go fast, head north. Go fast, head north. He continues repeating that phrase as he watches the sun set to his left.